that don't know, my name is Rob Chavez. I'm one of the facilitators of the Grid Network. The Grid Network is now 35,000 people across the U.S. We have 40 communities across the U.S. led by awesome leaders like these guys, right? And what we do is we help empower the community on building wealth through real estate, right? How do you invest in real estate and essentially figure out how to exit the rat race? How do you get, I call it the income flip. How do you get your active income moving into passive income so that your passive income starts exceeding your expenses? Because once you do that, you now have options, you have optionality, you have choices, right? And it starts, the vehicle that we love, the vehicle that I love, is real estate investing, right? The history, come on down, grab a chair, I guess, in the back.
This chair.
I'll give you guys a quick history lesson, not to bore you. Does this train come by like every 5 minutes?
For a while, until they clear out all the people out of DC.
Okay. So in 2006, I was a recently self-employed full-time investor. Like I had started investing in 2005 full-time. I owned a recruiting business like at the age of 24 with my best friend. That recruiting business still exists today. In that business, anybody know the headhunting business? Anybody know? Anybody been in that business before? Right? Every month you start at zero. And so you're only as good as your last month. And after a while of doing that, 5, 6 years of doing that, I was like, wouldn't it be nice if I did something one time and got paid forever? Like, that would be nice, right? I want to figure that piece out. And I went to my business partner and said, why don't we start a consulting practice within, do staffing piece of it. And he didn't want to do it. She said, well, how would I do that for myself? And I was like, well, maybe I can buy a house. And every year I buy a house, right? So in 99 I bought one, 2000 I bought one, 2001 I bought another one, 2002 I bought another one, 2003, 2004. What was happening during that time, guys? From the year like 1999 to 2005. Quick history lesson.
Massive
Prices
growth.
were going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just like it hockey sticked, right? So real estate just hockey sticked. And as, 25-year-old, 26-year-old, I'm like, real estate's easy. You can make a lot of money, right? Like, I'd buy a house one year and the next year it's worth $100,000 more. But I had a blessing happen. What happened in technology in year 2000? Anybody know? In year 2000?
Dot-com bust.
Yeah.
Dot-com boom, 2000. Then 2001, 2002 was the dot-com bust, right?
Yep.
And so my business, that we'd started in 1998 in recruiting had ballooned up, and I thought making money was super easy. And I realized that it wasn't. It was just I was in this inflated market. And I went from making, a couple $100,000 a year to making $50,000 a year. And by the way, I just had a baby, and I just bought a single-family house in Glen, right? And I was like, this is crazy. But it was real estate that helped me during that time, because what was going on? While the tech bust happened, real estate was appreciating like this, right? And all of my real estate friends were making a ton of money. They were making a ton of money. And I remember telling them, guys, it's going to change. I promise you. This isn't normal. We just had an implosion in technology. It's going to happen in real estate. It's just a matter of time, right? And nobody listened, right? 2005, I caught the bug so bad that I turned to my wife and I said, I think I want to go into real estate full time, but I'm pretty sure we're going to go through some kind of economic crash. I'm certain of it. She said, well, I trust you. And I'm like, why? She's like, why would we do it now? I was like, because if we learn the game now, when the market implodes, we'll be in a position of knowledge. We'll know what happens, right? So 2005, 2006, I started my first little investment group like this, right? And I would just talk shop about investments because it's what I love to do, right? That's my passion. It's what I love, right? You guys like jiu-jitsu. I like buying houses. And so by 2005, 2006, I bought 20 houses in 2006. I bought 30 houses with my wife in 2007 in a sub-market 2 hours away from where we lived, right? We had a little baby like that at the time, right? A little bit older, and we were back and forth, like 2 hours away from where we lived, and it was pretty brutal. And in 2008, everybody remembers what happened. Well, actually, you guys don't know if you remember, right? Right. But 2008, who remembers 2008 in the city? 2008.
Real estate crash.
My first foreclosure.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah.
I went through the first foreclosure.
Yeah, it was a brutal time. Everybody. It was literally everybody. It was like a bomb went off, and every sign in the yard was either a short sale or it was a foreclosure. Every sign in the yard. I mean, you didn't sell during that time unless you absolutely had to sell, right? And it was brutal. And so I learned the game of short selling, and I learned the game of pre-foreclosure and foreclosures. And in 2008, though, again, I was recently self-employed real estate guy. I looked around and everything was on sale, right? Townhouses that had peaked at $350 were now selling for $150. And the rents at the time were $1,500 a month. And I just remember thinking, that's the 1% rule. This is this rule, right? It's called the 1% rule. And I was like, when was the last time that happened in Northern Virginia? And I was like, so that year I learned every month we just bought one, like clockwork. We buy one, I fix it up, I put tenants into it. We then do a cash out refi. Today that's called BRRRR. Back then it was just a good old fashioned cash out refi. But you know, they coined it and they called it BRRRR now. It's super fancy. And we just did that at once a month, right? And but I made a really big mistake. By 2010, I started thinking that everything was overpriced. Can you believe that? 2010, I thought everything was overpriced. And I bought a lot, like, you know, from like the year, literally from 1999 to 2010, so that 10-year, right, let's just say that 10-year period, I bought a lot of real estate. I was pretty young. And I was nervous because I owned a lot of real estate. And I'd seen what had happened in the crash. In like 2010, I was like, everything seems overpriced.
So 2012 was the last buyer's market in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
The last one.
The last, right?
It's been seller's market since then.
Since then.
Yep.
And so what happened was, I made a really critical mistake. And this is part of what I want to do is talk about real estate investing tonight. I want to have you guys kind of introduce yourselves, but I want to give you some lessons learned because this is pretty applicable, right? And so from 2013, 2014, 2015, I was like, hey, this is crazy. Favoring sellers this whole time, even today, at 8% interest rates, 7.5% interest rates, there's still multiple contracts on assets. And we're seeing a little bit of slowing down. We're seeing some slowdown. We are seeing some distress in the market again. We're getting more calls for people that are behind. But what's different today than, let's say, in 2008? Right now? What's different today?
The loans are better.
The loans are way better, right? Not only that, there's a lot of equity in people's properties. So if somebody does fall behind right now, they're just putting the property on the market and it's selling. So you're never seeing it as a foreclosure or pre-foreclosure. It's just like, hey, I got lots of equity in the property, right? So I tell you that because we're at a crossroads and we got to figure out, like, right now it's time to be vigilant as real estate investors, which if you guys are coming here today, it's because you aspire to figure out how to play the game. And I'm going to share with you how to play the game because this is a game. And the purpose of the game is to exit out of what I would call the daily grind so that you can have optionality, right? Optionality to do what you want, when you want, with the people that matter most to you. Now, is it truly passive? When I was 24 years old, I had a vision of like buying all these properties and I'm laying on the beach and it's mailbox money. You just hear like about mailbox money, right? It's not like that, right? There's different degrees of how active or how passive your money is. You still have to manage managers, right? When you own assets, you still have to manage managers. And so, but it's very leveraged, and it's what I like. So today, that portfolio that I bought with that gentleman is completely paid for, free and clear. and it spits out a couple $100,000 a year in income. And I'm like, that was the smartest thing that I ever did. And I did it, by the way, with no money out of my own pocket. So think about that. One of the limiting beliefs that a lot of people have when they get into real estate is, I need to have money to make money. And you don't. What you need is specialized knowledge of how to make money. And when you have specialized knowledge and you know how to control inventory, then the person that controls inventory makes the rules. There's plenty of money out there. There's lots of doctors, attorneys, tech owners that have cash, but they don't have the time or the experience or the expertise to go out and find assets, right? And they don't know what they're doing. So if you can learn the game, there's plenty of money out there. And by the way, today we own a private lending company, and we'll give you access to the money. But there's certain rules around it, right?
Yep.
So that's a little bit of a nutshell of history and on myself. We started Grid, by the way, because we just fell in love with the real estate game and the entrepreneur. And we were like, okay, let's empower people, because when we empower you, what we found during the course of doing this the last 12, 13 years is that we end up doing deals with everybody. Everybody would always be like, training your competition. I'm like, no. There's no competition in what we do. This is literally co-opetition. This is collaboration, right? The hard money lender, you guys will learn what that is, needs the rehabber. The rehabber needs the hard money lender, right? Like, if you buy assets, you need the property manager. Like, you need access to the property manager, right? Property managers need access to CPAs. Small business owners need access to that. So this is like an ecosystem where we all need each other, right? There's this term called bird dog. Anybody heard of the term bird dog? Know what that is?
Yep.
So bird dog is just like, you may not have the knowledge, but you know a house
Let's go find
on
the
the
houses.
street that looks like it's run down, and then you're just like, oh, Dave Zimmerman, I saw this house on the street that's a little run down, and he then does a deal. He compensates you for being the bird dog. So bird dogs don't need to have knowledge per se of how to do it. They just need to know, hey, there's a house that looks like it needs work, Dave, you should do something, right? So there's so many different ways to make money in the game of real estate investing. The piece that I want you guys to really pay attention to is it's buying and holding assets that makes you wealthy, right? Buying and holding assets makes you wealthy. So there's lots of, the way we built out this curriculum, right, is that every month we'll teach a topic that will build on the next month, and then the next month, and then the next month. So January, what we do is we talk about wholesaling. Who knows what wholesaling is in here? Anybody know what wholesaling is? You know what wholesaling is? For those that don't know, it's essentially putting a property under contract with a piece of paper, right? Contract, purchase contract, and selling the paper to somebody else for a fee. And so a good friend of ours just sold, I helped her do her first one ever, and she sold that contract for $200,000. $200,000. So in two weeks, she made $200,000. And I said, don't get used to that. That's not normal. You got very, very lucky. That was Isabel, by the way.
Okay.
And it was a house in McLean, and she was terrified. The value, she never bought an investment before. And now here she is buying an investment for $1 million, and the exit is, once the house is fixed up, was 1.8. I said, there's a lot of juice in that. It needs $200,000 to do the renovation. I was like, lock it up for $1 million. She's like, where do I get the money? And I'm like, I'll lend you the money, right? I didn't tell her I didn't have the money. I just wanted her to have the confidence, right? We had the money. We have access to the money.
Yeah.
But she locked it up, and then she sold the contract to somebody in our great community for $200,000 more. Now that person is renovating the house, is almost done, and we'll put it on the market for $2 million, right? So the wholesaler and the rehabber needed each other, right? And the wholesaler made money, and the rehabber is going to make money too, right? So there's all these strategies. So we talk about wholesaling in the beginning of the year, and then we build a curriculum so that by the end of the year, we're talking about being the bank. How do you actually become the bank? And so, and everything in between. We talk about creative financing, subject twos, lease options, you name it.
Taxes.
Taxes,
Yep,
everything.
how to rehab, how to estimate.
Yeah.
repairs.
So that's a little bit about how the format works, right? We talk for about an hour, and then you guys collectively get to know each other and meet each other, because really the magic happens in the relationships and the connections in here. I always say the power's in the network. Like you're only one cup of coffee away from meeting your spouse, or finding a business partner, or striking and finding a deal, right? The reason why we put these on is because we find deals in our great community all the time. And we list properties and sell properties for people in our community. That's why we do it. We just give away the information completely for free, right? And we never want you guys to leave out like having any questions unanswered. Like we want all your questions. And part of our value is to connect you with resources, right? Accountants, plumbers, contractors, right? And that you guys will create your own little ecosystem. You're gonna outgrow this room. Let me tell you, my Knoxville location has 100 people every single month. It is a community, right? And every month they come together, they have a little wine, they have a little cheese, they talk for about an hour, and they all network and exchange and do deals. And so if this goes according to plan, you guys will build a community like that. You're like the founding fathers. You'll build mothers, right? You'll build a community, and what happens is you'll end up doing deals with people in that room. And what's incredibly gratifying for me is that I look at people that came into my room in Reston over a decade ago with zero experience in real estate investing, zero expense, like with zero, or less than zero, debt. And now I'm asking them questions on, how did you do that condo development? How did you buy that storage facility, right? It's very cool to see the entrepreneur go out there and make shit happen, right? I love entrepreneurs, real estate entrepreneurs, like love, right? So that's why we do it.
And that's actually how I met Rob. It used to be called Kaza Investor Meter Group back in 2012, I guess. Yeah.
By that time, I've been doing it 6 years already.
Yeah, he'd been doing it for a while. I was doing high tech for about 30 years and got tired of getting on a plane on Monday and getting off it on Friday and watching my kids grow up on my phone instead of with them, right? So I'm like, don't want to do that. Want to do something local. And so got my real estate license, started doing with a buddy of mine, courthouse foreclosure auctions on the auction steps, which was a total riot. We'd buy them, fix them, flip them, go. And so as a matter of course through that, that's when I ran into Rob because I was looking for deals. And so I'd go to some of these investor meetup groups and their shtick was, give me $10,000 and I'll give you my DVD collection on how to do this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a network, and that's the key. I'm looking for people that I can network with, find deals, do deals, learn this business, and go. And so, after 5 of these, I'm starting to think, this may be all that there is these guys that are just trying to soak you for your 5-10 grand. And so then I was Googling. There was this guy named Rob Chavez who was a realtor, running a meetup group, and I'm thinking, well, what could possibly go wrong there? Right? So I might as well go see it.
No respect for real.
Yeah, exactly, no respect at all. So I show up, and what became Grid was the real deal.
Yeah.
It was, we'll teach you how to do this for free. We just want connections, we want deals, we want to build our network, we want more people to be in this ecosystem that we have. And so that was it, and then from there joined his real estate team and, do investments myself, as well as in the real estate business, what I'll do is help downsizers flip their own house, right? I can go in because I've learned over being with Rob and our contractors and everything over the years, I can estimate really well. So I'll go in and I know what sells and what doesn't, so I'll tell them how to fix up their house. We just had a deal in Reston where it was a trust. We walked in and a guy that owned the townhouse died. And so it was weird. You walked in the house and it was like everything was where he left it. All the stuff's in there, right? So I'm talking with the trustee.
Breakfast,
yeah.
paper.
I'm talking with the trustee and I'm like, okay, so there's 3 ways to do this. I can sell it just like this with all that stuff in it. You don't have to touch a thing. And we've got our network of investors that will just come all day long and do this. It was a great townhouse in Hickory Cluster in Reston. Or if you want to maximize this trust for the trustees that are going to be paid out on this thing, and you give me 68 grand, I'll turn that into gold for you, right? And so for that 68 grand that she actually gave us to do that, we gave her back $175,000, right? And she's like, we love you, you know? So that's the business. This is what we do. And you can do that yourself. You can do it for clients. You can do it everywhere.
What's a valuable lesson on that with that story is that Dave has built relationships with attorneys. So people are always asking me, and this is part of what we'll do. We've got slides, but I never use the damn slides. Dave will ask me, we should probably use the slides so I can, keep us on track. But Dave's built over time a network of attorneys, and attorneys are great sources for leads. People are always asking, how do you find deals? Well, attorneys and other real estate investors, right? So why don't we do this? Why don't we do because this is part of like what we do with Grid all the time. We do it 30 seconds and do a little bit more of a speech than we normally do, because this is the first one, right? Why don't we do some basic intros? Start over here, come this way, right? Who are you? Why are you here? Putting you on the spot. Yeah, right here.
So, and while we're going through that, the sign-up sheet's right there. Please do put your digits down there for us.
We're going to put our buyers
And
list.
if you've already done it, hand it around so everybody can do it. Because we want to begin to form this network and go. So, what's your name?
My name is Bola Samir. I've been a real estate agent for almost 2 years, coming up in January. Right now with the Shepherd Homes Group, and
We lost a listing to you guys.
Jason's awesome.
Yeah.
But I started off my interest in real estate back in 2018. Saw my first friend buy their home. I was like, hey, I can do this too. Bought my first property. Thought I was gonna have bros move in. No one wants to move in, so just turned into a long-term rental, and then
There you go.
looking to learn from here.
Cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let that renter pay for it.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah. Excellent.
Hello everyone, my name is Tian Cao. I'm CPA, I do tax. So I think most of my clients, they have rental properties or business. So, but some of them make money, some of them have loss. So I'm wondering if I do, I invest some like rental property, how can I do that? How should I do make the profit? So I'm here to.
Yeah, you don't want to have the losses. Although you can make like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
You can make a profit and show a loss on
show
paper.
loss on the taxing.
Yeah. So it's the charm of Clifton.
There you go.
Well, I'm Calvin. I'm her fiance. I actually met her through our master's program in accounting.
Congratulations.
Also a CPA. I work at one of the Big Four accounting firms doing like consulting for audit remediation. And recently I just started paying attention to real estate because from the tax aspects, just business expense, ordinary, necessary, and just based on that two principle, you can save so much money just based on that. So definitely want to pay attention to these and learn from everybody from here.
Awesome.
And that's an important aspect of our dream team too, and that's a good CPA that you can work with. Definitely.
Hi, I'm Mo, and I'm a project manager in tech. I have zero experience in investing in real estate, and this is why I'm here. Luckily, I know Will through Jiu-Jitsu, so I'm coming to learn and get introduced to it.
I love this.
He's a very dangerous blue belt.
Yes. It's jiu-jitsu.
Very threatening.
Go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm in property management, both on commercial and residential, and good friends with Shelley and Will. So it was as simple as getting an invite and me thinking, okay, I want to check this out.
She came all the way from Old Town.
I know. I didn't know it was a Clifton thing. But that's fine. It was a lovely drive.
Yeah.
The train.
We want you to come back.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It'll be just as charming next time.
My name is Helena. I'm originally from Barcelona, Spain. I came to the US to play for Radford with a full ride. then did my MBA, just finished it.
Congratulations, by the way, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Very good.
Both those things.
Yes,
What kind of sport? What sport was it?
soccer
Soccer.
Okay.
from
Nice.
Barcelona.
Yeah.
Then got married 2 years ago, just got my green card, so now I can finally start my dream business, which is to be a real estate investor.
Very good.
Why is it your dream business?
Because of what you were talking about earlier, you were saying that once you invest in it once, you can get, you can get some income from that passively throughout your life. My wife works at commercial real estate, and I've been very deeply involved in it, and I really like it.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, welcome.
I'm Sanjay Patel. I was a software engineer for 26, 27 years. My wife got us into real estate. She and Will actually flipped a few houses together. And then after a few years, we looked at commercial real estate, and I started investing passively in commercial real estate. Eventually got enough passive income that I left my job. Now, for the past year and a half, I've been full-time on real estate investment, and I do mainly commercial apartment complexes. Have 130 doors so far on 3 buildings, and
What areas?
2 in Cincinnati, 1 in Slippery Rock, just outside of Pittsburgh. And always looking for other partners,
Sure.
other investors, and property managers and CPAs.
And money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Folks that want to invest passively. So.
And Sanjay, you ran your own multifamily meetup as well.
Yes, and I do a monthly meetup. It was this past Monday. It's every second Monday in Fairfax. So
Yeah.
anybody wants details on that, I can provide that. As
We
well.
definitely do.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Welcome.
So hey, I'm Nita, I'm Sanjay's wife, as he mentioned. And so basically everything he said. And then also I do short-term rentals. So we have one right now in Branson, Missouri.
Awesome.
And
Good
just
spot
looking-
to have one.
Yeah, so looking for maybe a few more short-term rentals.
And one other thing about Mita is she's got a strategy on Be the Bank. So if anybody's understands like what being the bank looks like, what you said the long term is,
Sure.
they've done some incredible research on how to be the bank
Sure.
long term.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit about that tonight. Go ahead.
My name is Ahmad. I own a plumbing company. Past 80 years right now. I moved from San Diego. I spent 80 years now right now in Virginia. And I've been driving around seeing the old houses, and my wife been telling me that we need to start an investment on the properties flipping house. So that's opportunity for me to jump into those old houses. Like it's easy for me to catch those properties. Yeah, this is my
And you know that's called driving for dollars. You know that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do it all the time.
One of the strategies. Go ahead, Matt.
My name is Saeed. I am a business owner at Fairfax County. Decent experience in real estate. I have some long-term stuff, some short-term rentals, commercial space as well. And same thing, like most of you guys, looking to build a network, do some more deals, sometimes find cash all day long.
What business do you have?
I have a home health care agency.
Oh, nice. Okay. For elderly?
Home health care and multifamily.
Okay.
So don't let him lie to you. He's got a lot of experience and very, very resourceful.
Okay.
Very cool.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
So my name is Ryan Rickard. I've been involved in magazine publishing for associations for the last decade or so, and in the last 3 or 4 years I've gotten really into real estate education, you know, looking at residential stuff and commercial stuff. You know, I just have a real interest in, you know, land design with like, you know, elevation adaptations and stormwater controls and stuff like that, and also like internal, like, you know, just things looking nice, but also like proper airflow design and acoustics and like ceiling and stuff. So I've gotten really into, you know, the science of that. I would moved on any of my real estate goals yet, but I'd really like to get into some fix and flips or something.
Okay. It starts with vision. It starts like just thinking about it. Like how you're thinking, right? That's where it starts.
Yeah, my company's called Association Vision, so.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Starts with vision. Go ahead.
Okay, Gabriela. Sorry, what was the structure? My name, Gabriela. I own a small marketing consultancy. I live in Manassas. I have no experience in real estate investment. In 2005, I bought my first condo at the worst market, of course. 2006, bought a townhouse. Still, the market was horrible. Both of those I lost big time. But in 2011, I started sharing with you actually. Finally, did it right and bought a 2-acre lot here in Manassas, and that is where my home is now. So now my kids are 7 and 10. My husband coaches them football, so I have a little bit of time in the evening. So I'm looking forward to learning.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Nice, welcome.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Cody Yenny. I'm currently a software engineer. I don't know anything about real estate investing, but I'm excited to learn. Will over here, my buddy, he was telling me about some of his experience while we were hanging out in Dallas, and I've been interested in it for a while. And then, this meeting was, just the next week or 2 weeks after that. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty neat. So here I am.
Promise you, if you just come every month for a year, it will transform your life.
Yep.
Like literally, that's how I feel about it. It's like if you just come and because at the beginning you're gonna hear stuff and you're just like, it's gonna sound like Chinese. You're gonna be like, you're not quite gonna understand it. But if you just keep being involved, promise you, it clicks, and then you're like, okay, and you're gonna take action on something, right? And you got good resources around you to help you take action. Go ahead.
My name's Angie Hill, and I'm a residential real estate agent. I'm looking to go into investing. I'd like to move away from the residential real estate piece where I'm working with people as far as clients go and just kind of controlling a little bit more of what I do with the flipping. So, or holding. And
you want to be your own client.
I do, yes.
So you can yell at yourself.
Right. Yes, and I connected with Will and Shelley about a year and a half ago, so awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we've got some people back. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
My name's Myra. I'm in communication sales. My husband got us into flipping houses, so we have our own business right now. He does mainly everything, so I want to come to these events and kind of learn more.
I love that. My husband got us into this shit, and so I'm gonna figure out how to get us out of this shit. That was like code right there.
He knows mostly everything. That's what I
That's actually code for we want to start making money doing this.
Yeah, I'm Mike. I got my start in real estate through Washington Capital Partners.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a hard money lender through there, and transitioned into flipping houses and just.
Are you still with those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell Danny and say hi.
Will do.
Yeah.
My name's Tyler. I was a home inspector for 10 years, and I started with design program modeling, so I'm a project manager with them now.
Okay.
Have a couple of long-term rentals, a tiny house for a short-term rental, and I'm trying to get into medium-term rentals. We rent a suite we have in our basement to traveling nurses right now.
Cool.
So I'd like to get into more medium-term rentals.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Hello, I'm Andrew over here back here.
Hey Andrew, I feel bad they put you in the corner.
So I run a general construction business from Ireland, Design Pro, and Style Mission. So Tyler and Will, we all work together. Will gave me a call 6 years ago, talking about real estate. We linked up and done probably 20 deals since, and now he's been on the renovation team, so it's a great match, and looking forward to doing more business.
Very cool. Are you a jiu-jitsu guy too?
No, just started boxing now.
Okay. Small fighters. Cherie, you're all the way from Baltimore.
Yeah.
Is,
2.5 years, 2.5 hours to get here.
Yeah.
2.5 years as well.
Yeah.
Hi everybody. Yes, I'm sorry. Hello everybody. My name is Cherie of Simply Funded. We do hard money loans as well as traditional loans in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you need any funding for any of your real estate deals, or if you're a self-employed person as well, I love dealing with the tough cases. So definitely give me a call.
Yeah, it's interesting. Cherie and I were talking about this the other day. and we're business partners,
Yes.
right? Cherie was saying, you know, I just love the real estate entrepreneur, investor, more so when it comes to the lending side than the traditional vanilla side. She's like, there's just so much more interesting. There's, you know, you've got business owners have to figure out how they're gonna buy some of these different assets because they're writing off everything against like all their income. And so she's like, I like that side of it better. Right?
Yes.
And for many years, you've always raised capital. Right?
Yes, I've always raised capital for businesses. I've also been a bookkeeper as well, so I know how to read your profit and loss statements, your balance sheets, even when you don't know how to.
Yeah. You know, which is just a quick aside, right? It just goes to show the power of relationships is what Grid is all about. I met Cherie, actually I met Cherie through her mom, right?
Yeah.
13, 14 years ago, when my wife and I got ourselves in a mess, right, with property management, where we had 300 assets, you know, under management. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any accounting experience, and we didn't have great financial training at the time. And like the property management business, there's lots of things that happen like all the time, lots of transactions that happen. Thankfully, Cherie's mom was like a mom to us and took us under her wing. Like really, my wife was like, "Honey, I'm going to show you how to do this." And for years, like I want to say like 4 years, I would sit down with Cherie's mom, and every day, every month, just be like, "Okay, what does this mean? How does it work? What's the flow?" And it's so important. Like accounting is the language of what we do, right? And I, as a business owner, I was like, I need to get comfortable with this. It didn't come natural. What was good, what I was comfortable at, was making deals, right? But I wasn't good at like, kind of like maybe some of your clients that are like, hey, you gotta make some profit here too, right? And so
Proactive tax planning.
that's right, that's right.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Accounting is after you've done the deal, but strategy is beforehand. So if you're dealing with somebody, just make sure they're not an order taker. Make sure that they can think like 5 steps ahead of you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I will mention too that Cherie is one of the sponsors for this Grid course.
Yes, officially.
Simply funded. Yeah.
Daniel, you want to introduce yourself or Elise real fast?
That's okay.
Yes, and our
Okay.
future investor.
Yeah, we've got our future investor here. Go ahead.
That's right. I got a little baby future investor right here named Walter. Walter, we had him flipping around. Sorry, new dad.
Yeah.
All right, 3 months old. All right. So my name's Daniel. I don't know a lot of BJJ, but I am a second generation master martial artist. My dad was a master before me, so if anybody needs my help to check out a property you're a little worried about. So I am an agent on Rob's team. I've been there 3-4 years now, and I doubled and tripled and quadrupled my income since being with him. So definitely another, in fact, the way I met you was a recommendation from Tim Mai, who knew you from Grid. Mm-hmm. So again, the network, how it can really change lives. Mm-hmm. So what I do is, as an agent, obviously I'm helping the buy side or the list side. I'm probably 80% buyers, and I've done maybe a dozen deals this year with different investor clients of mine. So if you are stuck and need a little help figuring out how to get that next deal across the line, I'm here.
And the numbers, analyzing the numbers, he's very analytical. And the DISC profile, if anybody knows like the DISC hiring profile, it's just like personality profiles. He's 100C, right? Which means super, super analytical, right?
Yeah.
Which is very unusual to find in a, like a salesperson, in an agent.
Yeah.
Normally there's no C.
I built my own calculators for running the numbers. So I mentioned this is my little boy. That over there is my lovely wife. She, along with me, helps me run a podcast. So if anyone here would like to get more exposure, I send it out to, I think it's almost up to 2,000 people now. So it'd be good to get yourself more renown in our ecosystem.
And it's typically for, for business owners?
For business owners, for real estate. We cover a lot of topics, but the core theme is we call it Hello Haymarket because it's our journey to get into a particular neighborhood in Haymarket that has particularly expensive homes, and our journey from where we start to get there.
That sounds cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and having been on one of Daniel and Elise's podcasts with my wife, Dana, who's an agent on our team too. He's very good at this.
Yeah.
So you should, if you're a business owner, he will get your name out.
Okay, so let's talk about real estate investing 101. I can't remember
So,
what's on
so
this
we'll
slide.
just roll through the slides and
Okay, we'll skip through
yeah.
that. We know that.
There's Skylar.
We know that.
Yeah, there's two more
Oh.
people.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool, Rob. I'm not offended, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm Skylar. I'm also an agent on the team with the Kaza Group, but my main focus now is with home remodeling. So I'm the area director and in-house designer for Kaza Construction. So we focus on renovate to sell and trying to maximize the investment for our clients.
And then we have this gentleman here.
Hi, good evening. My name's Glenn. I was trying to hide out.
You're exposed.
Yeah, I've been investing in real estate for a few years. I recently retired and I did 3 flips so far this year. So I'm trying to figure out how to scale it a little bit.
Cool.
Nice,
Great.
nice.
Awesome.
You're right about outgrowing the room, but it only took 20 minutes.
I know. I was like,
Exactly.
no, if you do this right, I'm telling you, our Knoxville location has done an incredible job. They've got like HDTV quality now, like with a camera. And they've got like over 100 people in the room doing deals all the time. And so, if you do it right, you build a really good community where everybody gets something out of it, right? Like we always teach on a topic, but it's really the relationships that you form. That's what this is about, right?
I'll also mention that Skylar, the townhouse that we talked about in Reston that we renovated and flipped and turned 68 grand into 175, she designed it for us.
Yeah.
She picked out all the stuff that we put in it, and it looked gorgeous when she was done.
Oh, by the way, I'm just gonna say, here's the legal stuff. We're not attorneys, we're not accountants. Do your own due diligence. This is my high C business partner that made me put all this in here. Very analytical, right? You know what? I hate slides. We're not just slides. We're gonna talk about like real estate investing 101, the way I would teach it to you, right? Here's the thing. This is a game. What we're playing is it's a game. It's a fun game to play. And the point of the game is kind of like what you did, right? 20 years, you're in corporate America, I'm sure you like what you did, but after a while you're like, I want to do something different. I want to be able to dictate my own time. And you went into multifamily, right? And you started buying multifamily properties because you probably said, felt comfortable with it, you made the numbers work for you. And what I find about real estate investing, it's very interesting, is that there's a spot for all of us to play, right? Your personality will dictate oftentimes the type of investing that you want to do. There's some people that are very comfortable with multifamily properties, and there's others that really just want to do like fixing and flipping, and there's others that want to do, no tenants and no toilets, so they just do note buying, they just buy notes. And there's some people that absolutely love just the creative finance game, and they'll buy properties subject to the existing loans, or they'll do lease options. And there's other people that just want to be the bank. They really love the finance part of it, and they want to lend money, and they realize that they don't need to always lend their money. They can actually find other investors and create the arbitrage between borrowing it from an investor and then giving it out to another investor, right? But ultimately, and I interview a lot of people on our podcast, the game is to buy and accumulate assets, right? I've interviewed maybe 1,000 real estate investors in my life, 1,000 plus. I've run a podcast called Income Flip. And the number one regret everybody has is that they didn't buy more and they regret selling what they did have, right? And so the game is to buy assets and hold them. But everybody always loves the fixing and flipping piece. They're attracted. They watch HGTV and they're completely in love with it. And they're like, I want to be Chip and Joanna Gaines, and that looks amazing, right? And yes, that you can make money there, and that's active income, right? No different than, my, agent, job, and no different than the construction that you guys are doing. All active income, right? But if you want to learn that game, like we'll cover a topic on how to like buy and fix and flip properties, right? You did 3 this year, right? Glenn, was it Glenn?
I'm in the 3rd right now.
In your 3rd right now, so you did 2, right? So I believe that people learn best through stories, right? And when it comes to real estate investing 101, people always want to know, well, how did you find it? How do we find these properties? And I'm going to give you some basic math. So how did you find those deals?
I have a real estate partner that I'm working with. We're trying to develop this. After I retired, made a decision I want to get into a little bit more. I'm trying to find some other fish to work with. And there are some partners. And so he's the real estate side.
Okay.
And he hunts them down. Usually I find the ones that got sold, which is not real helpful.
Okay.
And so I hope he's on his game. So we're put on.
So you're using an agent, right, to find assets. Another way is wholesalers, right? Wholesalers, remember I said, they're in the business of marketing. What they do is that they market for properties through direct mail or telephone calls, and they control real estate with a piece of paper. And then they sell that to people like Glenn, or people like me, or you, right, for a fee. And so everybody always goes, well, okay, well, how do I figure out, like, what are the numbers? And I'm going to give you some really back of the napkin math, super back of the napkin math, right? By the way, we have spreadsheets that we can send to you guys. I'm sure Cherie's got spreadsheets that she can give you guys to analyze deals, right? Because we want you guys to go out and analyze deals. But really back of the napkin math in this area, and it's different in other areas, especially in a seller's market where it's ultra competitive. We're normally buying properties at 80 cents of the ARV, so the after repair value. So let's just say, you know, in your neighborhood you might know, hey, the after repair value of that house is $600,000. So you multiply that by intermission. You can do the math on that, it'll give you a number, right? Okay. And then what they'll do, and then you subtract that, yeah, good job. And then you'll subtract out the renovation cost, right? And so let's say the renovation cost is $50,000, so you subtract that, right? Number by, was it 480?
430, yeah.
Yeah, so 50,000, subtract that, and so your acquisition cost is 430 on that asset. And then as a wholesaler, you know that 430 around that number is what a rehabber would buy that property for. And so you gotta buy it, you need to lock it up for a number below that, right? And if you want your spread to be 10 grand, then it's just 10 grand underneath that, right? So it's 420, you lock it up, sell it for 430. And so everybody's like, okay, well, I understand that, but like, how does that happen, right? There's a purchase agreement, and there's an assignment agreement. And so your original purchase agreement is what the investor is buying, and the assignment agreement essentially says, hey, you're buying this contract from me for this fee, and there's a non-refundable deposit that's associated with it if you default. And when you go to settlement, on the settlement statement, there's normally a line that just says an assignment fee of $10,000. And by the way, the wholesaler is normally selling it to the rehabber who's buying it in cash. Okay? And it doesn't need to be their cash, it can be a hard money lender. But it's not going to be Wells Fargo. Right? Because most of these houses need a lot of work. And the one thing that you need to know about real estate investing 101 is that what you're doing is you're buying a house in a situation that typically there's motivation in both. There's distress in the house and there's motivation with the seller, right? And so you say, okay, well, what does that look like? So I'm going to give you some examples of what that looks like, right? Many years ago, and Dave's been in plenty of houses like this, but I believe this is how you learn, right? Many years ago, I bought a house where the owner had not let out her pets, her dogs, and she had a little goat, out of the house in 5 years. And there was one room that was dedicated for all of the defecation in the house. So you can imagine what that house smelled like, right? And I remember the first time I walked through that house, you know, you're trying not to pass judgment, where you're just like, oh, it's lovely, it's nice, right? It's nice. But, you know, like the aroma and everything is just crushing. And she had this problem. She was stuck. She didn't know what to do. She knew she couldn't sell traditionally. And she had a lot of negative vibes with this house. People just do, for whatever reason. And when I bought, you know, as I was buying the house, I was like, listen, she's like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I'm going to fix it up. It's going to look beautiful. I want you to come back. I want you to see the end result. And she's like, you should burn it. That's what she said. You should burn it, right? And so she didn't care. She just wanted out of the situation. And many times that seller's number one concern is, especially if there's motivation, where do I go? Where do I go, right? How am I going to rent the next thing? What do I do with all my stuff, right? So as real estate investors, we are problem solvers. So we're solving problems for sellers, right? Properties that are on, can you buy properties on the MLS and make a profit fixing and flipping? The answer is yes. And the reason I know that, I've never done that, but I have a friend that's all he does. And he's just really comfortable with like lower margin kind of deals than we have, but he's just really nailed the acquisition. It's his own money, so he's not borrowing it from somebody like Cherie because there's a cost there. He's using his own cash, so there's a competitive advantage that's there because he can pay a little bit of a premium. And then he's got a really good contractor. He'll probably have some kind of volume deal, and he's just doing volume. And he buys most of his stuff off the MLS. But the majority of deals in this game are not found on the MLS. So if you're looking on the MLS, they're typically not there. They're traded here, right? They're traded off market. They're properties that are going into pre-foreclosure, or they're completely fine. The houses are owned, like tomorrow morning, I have an appointment with a client. One is in Mount Vernon in Alexandra, one of the houses, and the other house is in Annandale. Both houses have been vacant 20 years. Both houses have been vacant 20 years. He's the trustee of the estate, right? He's not like, it's not like he's financially distressed. Like he inherited these properties, but he lives in Chicago. And what he's trying to evaluate right now is, should I just sell it to an investor, take the money and run, right? Because it's all going to be it's all equity for him, right? Should I just take the money and run, so speed and convenience? Or do I hire somebody to fix it up and then sell it and try to make more money? And tomorrow I'll sit down with him and I'll ask him a series of questions to evaluate what direction the team is going. Because ultimately what we do is we serve people as investors and help them solve problems, right? And normally what makes us different than traditional real estate is that, you know, we have to solve complex problems, right? Many times emotional problems. Many times like, you know, one of the first houses I ever bought, husband, wife had an affair with the business partner of this guy. And the guy was in severe depression. And the house had fallen into major disarray. And the roof had been leaking for months. And you know, when there's a leak in the roof for months, there's mold. And he was frozen. And I had equity in the house. He was frozen. And we were able to come in and buy the house, move him into an apartment, take all of his stuff, move it into storage. But prior to that, he was just stuck. And so we get people unstuck a lot of times. So as real estate investors, not only do you have to learn the different mechanics of how to do deals, right? That's the easy piece. Like you'll learn the numbers, what makes a good deal, right? The harder part is learning how to communicate with another human, right? In a way that they feel comfortable trusting you to execute on the thing that you say you're going to execute on. So it takes a certain level of skill, rapport building, right? And then they have to have confidence, and then you have to be able to deliver on that, right? So I want you guys not only to go out and understand and learn the numbers of real estate investing, like the formula, the basic formula that we just gave you, and then also we'll give you a spreadsheet so you can figure out what's a good buy and hold, right? And everybody knows right now, with interest rates at where they're at, it's hard to make the numbers work in this market, right? We own now 6 vacation rentals, you know, in the Shenandoah Valley area, like very cool properties. But when we started underwriting them, interest rates were 4.5%. And a year later, when we started getting done with some of these projects, they're at 8%, right? Cherie, we gotta wait, 8.5%, 9%, right? We may have to wait. Like I think over a 2-year period that those rates will go back down. I got to make the numbers work, right? One of the biggest tsunamis coming right now is commercial real estate, office real estate. Right?
Sure.
Probably one of the biggest opportunities out there in the world of real estate investing. Why? Because a lot of these notes are coming due, and they were at 3 and 4%. They were locked in at 3 and 4%, and now they have to refi at like 8 or 9, and the economics just don't work, right? And office is going to go through some form of transformation, like between COVID and interest rates. It's like this massive, wave. So if you wonder, and I don't understand the office market, but if I did, right, I'd be probably chopping, like licking my chops, being like, this is going to be a good opportunity. Probably maybe like that for multifamily. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Multifamily is going. There's definitely people keep putting it off, but there are distressed properties starting to come up, and there should be more and more as the year goes on. So probably in the next 6 months or so, you should see a lot more.
Yeah. A lot of my friends, by the way, that you've heard of. Has anybody heard of the BRRRR strategy? The buy, right? Renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. That's the BRRRR strategy. And a lot of those loans were DSCR loans, right, which are commercial loans, and they're 5-year notes, right. And so, the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of people have been buying properties like that using the BRRRR strategy. And now what's happened, because I have friends, and they own 60, 70 houses, and all of the notes are coming due right now, and they're like, Rob, I didn't know that, like, I was having lunch, this was in December, and he was having a little bit of a meltdown, right? And it was like, I had all this cash flow, I own these 60 properties, all of these notes are coming due, and I'm going to be underwater, right? It's a mess, right? And so he's got to figure out. Now, here's the good news for him, and it's really hard for him, emotionally difficult, but the good news is he could sell all those right now, and there's equity in them, right? But it kind of feels like you did all that work for 5 years to now kill the golden goose, right? Like, you didn't want to have to do that. So you might have to sell half his portfolio and stabilize the other half. It's okay. You live to fight another day. Yep. We know what it looks like when the bomb went off during 2008 and there was no equity in properties. And you're like, what the fuck do I do now? Right? That was brutal.
And
So,
can I add, now there are 30-year DSCR loans. So when rates go down again and you all are purchasing, think about the mistakes that people have made thus far that you can
Debt
rectify.
service coverage ratio loans. Right? That's what that stands for.
Yes.
And it's they're really using the income of the asset more so than your actual personal financial.
Yes, they don't check your own income, they look at the income of the property in order to determine if they're gonna give you the loan.
Yeah.
But one way to get around that is to buy right as well, not buy right, buy lower. Buy at a lower purchase price.
Yeah. Yeah. So, learning how to negotiate and sell is a key component to being a real estate investor. And nobody talks enough about that, to be honest with you, right? Everybody's always wanting to know how to get a deal, and they want to know about direct mail marketing. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But here's what happens. Let's say, and I see people, this happens to people all the time. They go to a seminar, and at the seminar they say, listen, you could do a yellow letter, and this does work, right? You do a yellow letter. It says, we buy houses, we buy them as is, we buy them cash, we close quickly. The letter's simple, and you mail them to absentee owners or people that are in pre-foreclosure or anybody that's inherited a property. And you send out thousands of letters, like say 1,000 letters or 2,000 letters. And people do that. They'll go, they take this seminar, they send out these letters, and then what happens is they start getting calls. But they don't know what to say. And they don't know how to act, and they don't know how to develop rapport, and they don't know how to negotiate. There is a piece of that we just kind of learn on the fly, right? Like, you just go and you're like, okay, I screwed that appointment up, right? What am I not going to do next time? But when you're burning money to make the telephone ring, I see a lot of investors start their career and then stop. Because they're like, oh, I spent all this money, I got some leads, but nothing happened. It didn't work. Well, it's because you didn't build this other skill set, right? You didn't build how to develop rapport with somebody and how to seek to understand and how to negotiate, right? And so when the deal did present itself,
Couldn't close
you
it.
didn't know what to do with it, right?
And then you stopped.
And then you stop, and because you stop, then that's truly failure at that point. By the way, you can never fail at this business if you just keep going. Right? You just keep going. And so I'm going to give you the top 3 strategies that investors, right, find deals. Right. Strategy number 1 is, believe it or not, they find them through a network like this of what we call real estate entrepreneurs. So real estate agents and wholesalers, anybody in this ecosystem, this is one of the biggest ways that people find deals, right? Somebody has a cousin or sister or uncle or brother, and you're always telling everybody, listen, I buy properties, I buy cash, I buy in as-is condition, I make it super easy for the seller. Like that's one way people find deals, right? Second way people find deals is marketing, zoning a market, okay? So what I'm going to tell you, this is part of our secret sauce. Secret sauce has been find a market, and I call it zoning a market. So you zero in on the target market, you own the mind share of that market, you network and nurture a database, and then you engage with the community. Let me break that down even further, right? You couldn't possibly know real estate, all of the DMV real estate. You couldn't know all the values. There's very few people. Mark Beckett, our business partner, knows values all over the place. You can only really kind of have a finite amount of fast knowledge on one market, right? And I'll give you an example. You probably know, you live in Manassas, right? You probably know the values of your house, and you probably know the values of like your neighbor's house, right? Because it matters to you, right? But you probably don't know the values of Old Town Alexandria, right? You know your backyard. You would have to do some research in Old Town, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you, okay, I should probably pay attention to real estate all around me, within like a 3-mile, 4-mile, 5-mile radius. Okay, this is a good way to start. And when you learn real estate in a 5-mile radius around where you live, you have a competitive advantage over everybody else. Because now you know every street, right? You've probably been driving around those streets and seeing what the distressed properties look like in those streets. It's called driving for dollars. Right? We talked about this. And building a list of houses that look like they need work from the outside. Everybody's seen them. Everybody's seen the house where the grass is this high and there's weeds in the gutters, right? And the house looks like it hasn't been painted in 20 years, or the roof's got like moss growing all over the top of it and hasn't been changed, right? Everybody knows that. So in your area, 5 miles around where you live, you should make it a habit to drive around and start writing down those addresses. And you start building a list. And that's a hot prospect target list, right? And then what I'm going to want you to do is start researching what values are all around in that 5-mile radius, and start attending open houses, and start looking at. You're going to need access to the MLS to get data. A lot of agents a lot of real estate investors actually get their real estate license for that data, right? Yes, could you get data on Zillow and Realtor? Yeah, but it's delayed data, right? You need the most up-to-date data, so you need to figure out a way to get access to the most up-to-date data. MLS data is the best way, right? There's other ways, but that's the best, right? And so when you actually zero in on a target market, like in Manassas, and you drive for dollars in that area, and you know what things are worth in that area, when you start putting out the message that I buy houses here in Manassas specifically, and I'm a cash buyer and I can close quickly and I solve problems, then what happens is through, putting it out there, it's like the universe just aligns. Opportunity starts finding you. People know, oh, she buys in Manassas, right? And so what happens is you're going to attract that into your life. Everybody knows what the reticular activation system is in their brain, right? It's like that for deals. Once you open your mind to what a deal looks like, you start seeing them everywhere. If anybody's ever had like, I mean, what you focus on, you will find, right? We know this. What you focus on, you will find. And so if you're focused on building wealth, guess what happens? Build wealth. If you focus on finding deals, guess what happens? You will find deals. If you focus on being unhappy, guess what happens? You will see it everywhere. If you focus on joy, guess what happens? You will see that everywhere too. What you focus on enters into your brain, right? And so you have to be very careful about what you want to put into your brain. It serves us super well as real estate investors, because once you know what a house looks like that needs like a lot of work, you put your brain around that, you start seeing that. So before, you just drove by that smelly house, but now it's like your brain sees it. You're like, oh, I see motivation, I see something over there, right? So you have a couple options when you build that list, driving for a dollar list. You can be really bold, and you can go and knock on the door. It's a very basic script, right? Here's a script. Hey, I'm buying property in this community. I love owning real estate here in this community, right? And I'm just curious if you or one of your neighbors is thinking about selling. That's it, right? What will happen is one of two things, right? Yes or no. Yes or no, right? Or the third thing, well, maybe not now. Maybe at some point in the future, right? And so what you're going to do is you just, like all good sales and marketing, and then it's follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up from there on out, right? If they say yes, you go, oh shit, now what? Right? I got to figure this out. And by the way, we all go through that, right? I'm sure when you bought your first multifamily property, there was a little bit like, oh shit, they got accepted, right?
Yeah. It's the getting an LOI accepted is the greatest thing, and it's also the most daunting thing.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is for real now, right? Yep. That's normal, and that, by the way, like doing uncomfortable things is what makes us grow. Like there's growth in that, right? And what I found hard when I was 24 is not hard, you know. That's I'm gonna be 50 this month coming up in November. It's crazy. It's a big one, right? So, you know, this is what helps us grow. So zoning a market is incredibly important, right? You cannot be all things to all people. You have to hyper-focus. So once you zone that market, you're going to have the absentee owner list. That's one list. And then the other big list in that zone is, driving for dollars list. The other big list is absentee owners. People that live in other markets, right? And they own real estate here. And you'll find that in the public records. And so the gentleman that I meet tomorrow, he lives in Chicago, right? Lives in Chicago. Like I very easily could have pulled up his stuff and there's a trustee, you know, trust owns this asset, and the asset, all the mail goes to Chicago. You know that they're an absentee owner. So you can create an absentee owner list and then mail to them with a very basic message. If you're thinking about selling, I'm interested in buying. I buy it, you know, cash, I buy as is, I can close at your convenience. That's the message. It's not more complicated than that. That's the $10,000 course you're paying for, right? That's the message. And so now you've got this driving for dollars list and you've got an absentee owners list. And this is where sales and marketing comes in. Everybody thinks that this is a real estate investing game. This is really a sales and marketing game. Everybody understand that? Right? You have to get good at sales and marketing. And so you're going to mail to that group forever. Forever. And everybody's like, well, like, what if I don't get a return on that investment? Like, you will get a return.
You will.
Over time, right?
You will.
You will. Now, but you have to be able to have a budget that you can live with, right? So, just give you rough math. If you send a postcard out, how much do postcards cost you? 60 cents, right?
Yeah.
60 cents. So let's just say make the math simple for me, right? 50 cents. So 5,000 records, $2,500 a month. And you ask yourself, can I spend $2,500 a month to get the telephone to ring? And the answer for most people right now is no. And that's okay. You start where you're at. You start at a number you feel comfortable and that you can just put on autopilot and think of it as an investment, right? Not as wasted money. So you might say, I can afford $100 a month. So you go, great, I'm gonna have a very targeted 50 house list that I'm just gonna pound forever in my backyard, in Manassas, where I know real estate values. So when they call me and they say, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house, and they name the street, you know the street because you've been looking at real estate. Because this game is built with speed, right? Like, let's say I get that call and I live in Reston, Virginia, and now I have to analyze the deal, and you get the call the same day. Who do you think is going to win that deal? She has an unfair advantage. You guys see that? Because she lives in that market. So she'll already know the values. Assuming that our knowledge is equal. Assuming our knowledge is equal, right? It's not equal right now, so what will happen is you would hesitate, and it would take you time to figure out how to find the data, and then I would find the data, and then I would move quickly. But if our knowledge was equal, you would be like, yep, I live right down the street, I'll be over at your house today. And I'll be like, I'll see you tomorrow. And that day difference makes all the difference, right? It makes a difference. That friend that I told you that made the $200,000 assignment fee, when she gave me the numbers, I was like, go to that house right now and get that contract signed. Because I'm telling you, by tomorrow, somebody else will have that contract. Because that agent, that there was representation. There was another agent on the other side representing the seller. They're going to find somebody else is going to figure this out. So she hung up the phone with me. She went to that house. I said, act like bold. Like, I'll buy the house. I'll close at your convenience in the next 14 days. What do you want? They said, I want $1,050,000. She said, I'll give you $1 million, right? And she's like, but I would need to know your answer today. She's like, well, we got another agent, that wants to look at it tomorrow. And she's like, no, my offer is $1 million today, and I won't exist tomorrow. And they're like, okay, we'll take your offer now, right? And that was a $200,000 assignment, right? And she was, by the way, terrified. She had to psychologically go through lots of steps. She had to put down a $10,000 earnest money deposit, which terrified her. She'd never done that before. So on this journey, Real Estate Investing 101, there's all this growth that's going to happen, right? Now, I don't want you to put down $10,000 on a deal that I knew the numbers, and she felt comfortable that I knew the numbers, so she was willing to do it and trust me in that respect, right? Because I was like, listen, we have the money. Just put it under contract. Call Shireen. Shireen will lend you the money. Don't think that you don't have them. She's like, it's $1 million. Where do I get the money from? I go, you already have the money. You know me. Shireen will get us the money. You just have to lock up the contract. Right? So, a lot of times, by the way, you guys know the numbers are really hard to make work here in Northern Virginia. So we go to Cincinnati, or we go to Cumberland, Maryland. We go to other areas. And there's an inherent risk when you do that. And so I want to talk about that really fast, right? And here's the inherent risk. When you're an outsider coming in, what are you?
An outsider.
You're an outsider, right? Which means you need to do some due diligence when you go into a market and figure out what are the big boys doing in this market? How are they playing? And your number one advocate to understand another market is to talk to property managers, is to find out where do people want to rent, what are the good, technically they can't tell you what's a good area, what's a bad area, but a lot of times they're like, our tenants prefer to live here, right? We seem to rent our properties faster there, right? There's a lot of that. I want to get that collective intelligence, right? What kind of assets should I not buy? Mr. and Mrs. Property Manager. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Property Manager, what is the absolute nightmare kind of property that you manage that you're like, I don't want anything to do with that kind of property? And where does that kind of property exist in your market? And they'll tell me. And I'm like, okay. Like, they'll tell you. Like, they are a conduit to that information, right? So as you enter into other markets, know that real estate agents and property managers will give you the scoop, right? And then you just need a good guide, right? And you have to be careful when you go into some of these sub-markets. There are definitely, there's this concept of appreciating markets and cash flow markets. Are we in a cash flow market or are we in an appreciating market?
Appreciating.
That's right. Like this market goes up in value. It's not a cash flow market, right? So trying to create the income flip or trying to create what you're doing in this market, incredibly difficult to do, right? The only way that we can do it, guys, is through this technique called subject to, or if you go to a market like maybe an hour and a half away, an hour from where we are here, you can make some of those numbers work. So I buy in Winchester, I buy in Front Royal, I buy in some of those submarkets where I see growth, right, happening. But it's not here in Clifton, and it's not, you know, in Reston. Definitely not. Now, can you find fix and flip deals? Yes. All day long. Here in Clifton, in Reston, but that's different. Remember, that's like, those are chunks of money that you put in your pocket to do what? To buy long-term assets. Because that's the real game, right? So if you're like, well, I don't have, fixing and flipping is a job, by the way. And you're like, I don't have time to do that. You're going to want to buy in some of these submarkets. You're going to want to go to Cincinnati. You're going to want to go to Ohio or places in Florida. My only advice is make sure that the markets, I learned this the hard way, are growing markets. And how do you know that? By looking at population growth. That's all I want you guys to pay attention to. Population growth. Is this market growing in population or is it declining? By the way, there are markets, like in different parts of Detroit, like, that are dying. You know, Cumberland, Maryland is where I did a lot of my initial stuff, and I made money buying, fixing and flipping, but buying and holding. I bought a duplex 15 years ago for $50,000. Guess what that duplex is worth today?
$50,000.
$40,000. I just sold it for $40,000. 15 years later. That sucks, right? But that was my price of learning, right? So just know when you're going into markets, like, you got to do some market due diligence that are there. Look at permits, look at growth, all the rest, right? And then different asset classes. So what's our time check real fast?
You are 16 minutes over.
Over, okay. So what I want everybody to do is a little homework on this technique called subject to. And the reason why I think it's an important thing to, I'm not going to encourage anybody to do it. There's some different levels of complexity and some risk associated. But I want your mind to realize that there's so many different ways to play this game, right? And I just want you to understand, like, this year I've bought 5 properties where interest rates have been below 4%, one at 2%. And the loans have been paid like for 10, 15 years. And so what I did was I got the deed handed over to me in exchange for money, right? But I inherited, I simply took over that mortgage payment at 2% and 3%, 4%. That's now fully amortized at like, it's at year 15. One's at year 10, one's at year 12. It's like time travel. But there is an inherent risk when you buy a property like that. The no good can't call due. It's rare, but it can happen. So you have to be careful. You got to assess that risk, right? But I remember I said one of my biggest regrets was that I didn't buy more in the last decade. I feel like I can go back in time because I can buy a house that somebody else bought 10 years ago that's locked in an interest rate of like 4 or 5%, and it's been amortizing at, you know, for those last 10 years. It's like as if I bought that house 10 years ago. You guys get that? It's like mind-blowing to me. And you're like, what kind of houses are they? Yeah.
I'm a member of a mentorship program specifically for learning how to buy houses subject to, which I found at Green and Fairfax.
Yeah.
One of the presenters there. So if anybody's interested in that specifically, I can share the information.
Yeah. Is that Naya?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
I'm
Naya.
all in with Naya.
Yeah.
So she's great.
So Naya's great, right? Naya's a good friend of mine. Like a decade ago, she was talking to me about sub 2, and I was like, yeah. And we always do a topic on subject choose, and I didn't know shit on how to do subject choose, so I would just call Naya and be like, Naya, will you come in and present? And she would explain it, and I'd be like, I don't. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody do that, right? Because the note stays in that person's name. It's still on their name. I don't have the note, but I have the deed. They're like, how the hell do you sell that? Well, I bought 4 this year like that, right? And so it's like once my mind opened to it and how to position that, it's like, shit. So I only mention that because this is such a cool industry. There's so many different ways to do it, right? And we're going to talk about all those different ways in detail, right? So I did a lot of talking. Anybody have any questions? Like open up the room for questions on what we're doing here, right? And if not, then I'm going to let you guys kind of network with each other and meet each other and exchange business cards. And I'm telling you, the power is in you meeting the different people in here and putting them into a database, right? And then staying connected. I'm going to encourage you, if you meet a contractor or a plumber or somebody else, like take them out for a cup of coffee and be like, how can I help your business? And they're going to say, how can I help your business? And you'll end up doing business together. And that's the real power of the network. Fair enough?
So write down November 8th on your books, on your notes, because that's the next time we're going to meet here. We're going to do something a little different next time, and that is we'll be in the same room, but we'll have the seating figured out so everyone can actually sit down, right? How's that sound?
I'm telling you, you will outgrow this. Like by next time, like if everybody just brings one, I plan for growth. If everybody just tells another person to come, you've doubled this room.
Yeah.
And what happens is, I'm telling you, the bigger this room is, there's more opportunity for you guys, right? So it's like you got to spread the word and be like, hey, come here. So why do we have different locations? We realize, except for you, because you came all the way from Alexandria and she came all the way from Baltimore, right? She came the furthest. But for the most part, we know that people only want to go 10, 15, 20 minutes down the road, right? So you could build a network like around here, 30 minutes, 30 minutes from this location. Before you know it, you'll have 50 people in this room. You guys will just talking about like doing deals. You won't have me just talking the whole time. It'll be somebody cool and entertaining.
And so we'll fill this room up, and then we'll move up to the Wine Addicts bigger room upstairs, and then from there we'll go to the City Hall, and there can be 150 people there or something. We'll just keep rolling.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? When you're thinking about who to invite, there are 3 buckets of people. There are deal finders, so people who are like wholesalers, real estate agents, etc. There are deal funders, so that can be people like hard money lenders, but it could also be your friend who has $500,000 sitting on the side and they want to be a private lender, right? Or there are service providers, so your contractors, your plumbers, people like that who are investor friendly. So don't just think about, hey, I'm looking for, a real estate investor. It's like all of those people make the ecosystem
Don't
work.
make assumptions about what other people do or don't know.
Yeah.
Okay? You'd be surprised what other people in your world have access to, right? So be loud, tell people what you're looking for. I'm currently looking for more wholesalers. And let people know what you're looking for.
And I'm looking for more deals to fund. I've talked to 2 people over the past couple of days, combined have $5 million. They're looking to get into the market. So if you have fix and flip deals especially, like call me.
Yeah.
The money is here.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way guys, money is never the issue. It's finding the deals. It's doing that marketing. It's being able to negotiate that. That's the harder part, right? Now, build a relationship with a private lender, hard money lender, like you'll realize like they are your business partner. You guys will just like do lots of deals together. And eventually just like, Cherie, I've got another one. And she's like, great, I've got it funded. That's our relationship right now. Like, hey, we got another deal. She goes, great, I know exactly who to put it out with and it's funded, right? Imagine that. It's like, because the thing that normally holds us back is the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Think about what your little elevator pitch is going to be the next time you introduce yourself. Right? Tell people what you're looking for. We had a lady that wanted to find an opportunity for a short-term rental, an Airbnb in a lake, and like the next meeting, she had it. right? You never know. There's opportunity in the room. So be clear about what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
And then let people know.
You know, it's actually a good point, Daniel. Like if everybody, if you just say, I'm a real estate investor, and you say, I'm a real estate investor, and you say, I'm a real estate investor, guess what happens? Do I remember you?
Nope.
No. But if you say, listen, I buy and fix and renovate houses specifically in Manassas Park, like Manassas Park is my area, that's what I do, right? Then I'll associate you with Manassas Park. I'll be like, oh, that's the investor that works in Manassas Park. So the more specific you are, the better it is to activate people's brains, right? Our whole business was built around that. It's like, hey, pick areas and dominate those areas. That's zone strategy, right? Yeah, get the elevator pitch down. Right. Who has short-term rental? You have a short-term rental, right? Short-term rentals, right? So we've got, you know, short-term rental is like a little iffy right now. I'm seeing a lot of short-term rentals convert to mid-term rentals, right? Still good. I converted 2 of mine to mid-term, and it worked out just well. So maybe we can collaborate on that.
I have a friend that I'm looking, that's part of Naya's group also, that specializes in that, and she does insurance, markets to insurance companies for people that are displaced due to fire and flood and whatnot, and they're paying double the regular market rent for furnished places that a family can move into for 6 months.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you actually Google insurance housing, you'll find some of the different platforms that are out there. And it's interesting because I've never done it, but I've talked to a couple people who said the same thing. And like, you put your house into the platform. It's like $50 to put it into the platform, costs for a couple $100. But then what happens is insurance companies see it and they're like, oh, my client, it's like Zillow for insurance people, right? And they pay you like ridiculous sums of money.
Yeah, there's a huge need. I mean, friends of ours had a flood, and they got moved from, over 4 months they were in 5 different Airbnbs because there wasn't anything that the insurance company could find that was more than 2 weeks.
Wow.
So they just moved around, and yeah, it's a huge untapped market now that everybody's waffling on Airbnbs because they're becoming illegal very quickly in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So jump on that before that becomes the next thing.
Well, what I'm going to say is, Will and Dave, where's Will go?
If you're willing to share. Sure.
Will back. I was going to say, where's Will?
Is Will outside?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I was going to say, guys, I'm entrusting you. We're building an awesome community here in the Clifton area, right? No, I know. I can already tell that you guys are natural connectors because you got friends in the room. I would say just support your friends and build a big network. It's good for everybody, right? And you're going to see some magical things. Like you talked about Fairfax, they've been running a really good location. They probably have, what, 50 to 100 people in that every month, right? And so when it's done right, it's just a good conduit for everybody, right?
I'll tell you something neat about it. If you're looking for commercial property, talk to Stephanie. If you're looking for multifamily, Sanjay, Mita, Saeed. If you're looking for contracting, talk to Andrew and Tyler. There's Angie if you're looking for a realtor, Dave, accounting, we got these folks here, realtor. I mean, there's so many resources next to us in the room, and Cherie, I mean, so many resources next to us all the time. And I think we often try to stay siloed. We try to do it on our own, learn on our own. I've done that. Oh my gosh. And you realize that sometimes just stop and ask the person next to you, come to a meeting with me, talk to me about this. Let me, we're all just learning. And that's the thing, over 7 years, I've made a lot of mistakes. The biggest one is just not connecting with the right people and getting the advice with the right person when I needed it. And so that's the most exciting thing about this is building a community of people in this area we can rely on, that we trust, that when I call them, I'm like, hey, this person's not going to lie to me. And that's the biggest thing in this thing over 7 years, finding people you can trust. Finding people you can actually trust in the amount of time that you got to do to make the decision. That's the hard thing. because you call, you're getting data, you're not sure who you're getting it from, you're not sure who you can trust. That's the thing we build here is relationships and people that you can call, rely on when you got money in the line. So anyway,
You know, it's interesting you should say that. Corey and Justin run our Knoxville location. They said, you know what grid is, right? I'm like, yeah, well, I know.
I started it.
Yeah. No, he goes, it's a transfer of trust. He said it's really trust, transfer of trust. Everybody that comes in that room, right? The community looks out for each other. Community looks out for each other. So I was like, you just said the same thing.
Amen.
No.
So make sure you get your name on the sign-up list wherever it is. Who knows where it is? But if you're not on there, get on there, and we'll keep you all connected. And we will. We're gonna network for a little while here if you want. There's still stuff left, I think, over there.
Yep,
grab yourself some food or some beverage there, and we will see you on the 8th of November, right here, with a different seating configuration.